dispelled the ghoulish visage and instead the
That's a great intro. Welcome. This is The Sting of Time. It's a podcast that I do and you do.
I too do the podcast.
Yes. Though I no, I'm not gonna say that. We do it equally, sort of. And we watch a movie in this podcast. It's called The Scorpion King.
Yes.
We have now watched it 51 times.
Yes.
I should ask you if it feels momentous in any way, shape, or form.
No, not in any way, shape, or form. I'm a bit. No, I'm not gonna say that. This is the podcast where we think things but do not say them. So far, but I feel rather mellowed out about both the watch and the number and everything concerning it. I felt it was very median, middling watch. For this episode, we decided before.
No, stop it. Stop introducing things.
I'm sorry.
I am here to give you my thoughts on that.
But I thought this was an equal.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it is equal in that I ask you a question and then when you answer it, I also get to answer it because you won't ask me the question back.
Okay.
So I'll say I agree with all the things you said. Now, moving on. You can now introduce what you're going to say.
No, I became too apprehensive.
Don't be apprehensive.
I shall be unapprehensive. For this episode, we decided beforehand that we should take a look backwards through the hourglass of time.
Yes.
To reflect and contemplate some earlier statements, happenings.
I think the idea was that we've done this 51 times. I suppose 50 when we watched the back, when we did our retrospective look here. So we've done it. A majority of the times we're going to do it. A vast majority, actually.
Yes. As much of a majority it can be without being finished.
Well, no, that would have been if we did it now.
Ah, yes. That's true.
But almost. You're very close. You're touching upon it. So we've done it the vast majority of times. Let's look back at some episodes because both you and I suppose I technically have seen all of the clips a little bit more than you since I do the editing work, which is very light as of late. But we have never watched back the episodes. A, because that's kind of weird. And B, because we decided we also wouldn't do it.
Yes.
Then
we decided to have not decided that.
Well, no. I think the point was don't watch them back, so we can at some point watch them back without having watched them back. At least that I had this planned out since the beginning.
I too had that planned out. I was of exactly the same in mind, obviously.
Yes. Which means both you and I had before this watch, which the watch was okay, let's do a real review of the watch for the people who actually give one shit about the watch. Let's do 3 sentences. We know this 3-sentence structure from the Arnoldathon where we watch every single Arnold movie.
Yes.
You don't have to give it a score, but 3 sentences. I'll start. The Scorpion King is still a movie. Memnon is still all right. Matthias has 7 blades on the camel.
Okay. My review is as follows. Jessup is the brains of the operation. The brains of the operation has died. We're left with Dwayne.
All right, so that's the review for the people who care. Those are our thoughts on this watch of the movie. It's interesting you ended on Dwayne here, because my first thing I wanted to bring up from watching back the episodes, I'll say I watched maybe 7 or so at sort of double speed, more or less. And I picked some of them not at all at random. Like I knew which some of them I wanted to go back to. And then I also picked some episodes that felt very unclimactic, I'll say. So episodes
maybe episodes that you don't really think about.
Yeah, that have no real memory
about.
of, but the first episode I watched was the first episode. And I'll say it's interesting just to remember that, to not only talk about the fact that it was sort of edited, but remember the fact that it was sort of edited. I also didn't really remember the fact that Dubious Dwayne Details was in the first episode. But speaking on Dwayne, yes. I'll get to the point here I was trying to get to. So in that episode, you made a I'll say a prophetic statement when we talked about Dwayne, or The Rock, as it were. I mentioned the fact that we started calling him Dwayne, not The Rock.
Before you get to it, I want to say what you're about to say is one of my points. 100%. Okay.
The fact that you were saying, oh, I'm pretty sure that we're not going to call him. It's going to change. We're going to call him Dwayne at some point. We're going to call him Matthias. We're going to call him The Rock. We're going to call him the full name. And it's been zero of that. It's just been Dwayne. Dwayne's been Dwayne since watch 1.
That is absolutely true. He started as Dwayne, and he never left Dwaynehood. I had also noted down, because I also watched the first episode, that I say that I will struggle to remember The Rock's character's name even after 30 watches, which is not true. I definitely remember that The Rock's that Dwayne's character is named Matthias. Yes. And maybe it took me 3 episodes to clearly remember that, because they don't really say his name that many times in the movie. It's not.
It is like funny though, because I distinctly remember the fact that I have at times felt like you have called him Matthias.
Yes, you have felt like that, but that has not been the case.
I don't have any conclusive evidence as to one way or the other, but I'll say I have felt that way. But definitely that's pre-30 anyway. So
yes,
you were, I guess, wrong on both accounts, but one has to make these bold, statements early on. Otherwise, you're not human.
Some more things from the first episode that I have jotted down in my scroll here is that at some point, I say some point, I have noted timestamps for all of these, but like about 6 minutes into the episode, I haven't characteristic of me, I haven't written if it is you or me who says this, but it is stated that there are no The Rock eyebrows in the movie.
Yeah,
then that is empirically false.
Yes.
And it is interesting that we make like a point, like, oh, he never does the thing, he never does his thing, his move, but he does it several times. So, or at least 2 times.
He does it once.
He does it in the harem.
Yes.
But doesn't he also do it
I'll say no before
no,
you say where it is, but
yeah, maybe I'm
give
making
me,
it up.
give me where you feel like he does it.
No, I will not, because now when I have to, I realize that it may be untrue. Maybe it's just the
I think
harem.
it's 100% untrue. He does it once. He does it in
Yes.
the harem.
Yeah, I think my mind is confusing it with his stupid face he makes in the epilogue, but that's not eyebrow
Yeah,
related. So
yeah. I wouldn't
yeah,
put that
he
there
does it
either.
once in the harem. That's it.
Yes. We did talk about Tsunkatse though in the first episode, and
Mm,
for the people who don't know, somehow, Tsunkatse, the Voyager episode, which is I'll say semi heavily features The Rock as a
mm,
space wrestler. He also does the eyebrow, and he does it like frame one of the fucking episode.
yeah.
So, or I guess at least frame one of where he shows up, which I think might be frame one of the episode. I feel like we were coming hot off of that, and there's sort of a lot of stuff going on in the harem, and as much as I wouldn't want to praise the movie and Chuck Russell ever, if you had to have the eyebrow, I don't think they play it up. It isn't a big moment in the movie.
You're asking me this?
No, I'm just saying. I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
So I understand that you could possibly miss it.
Yeah, it also happens, especially for a first watch. The eyebrow happens in a scene where you are already, inclined to like, I don't really want to pay attention to the harem. The harem is cringe, and
Yeah,
I
it's a
like
bit
all
weird.
that kind of stuff. So it's more like it's easy to miss. I was gonna check if I had. I noted down that also in the episode we mentioned that we watched the Fast and the Furious
Yeah.
whatever movie, and you say we watched it only once. We'll see. Maybe in the future we'll see it again. We have not watched that movie again,
No.
and I'm very glad for that. And that's it for the first episode.
Mm.
For
I think we
for me,
mentioned that movie because I mentioned it because we watched it and The Rock wasn't in it, because I think we're
yeah,
talking about what stuff we've seen with The Rock, which is very, very little.
yes,
It's sort of interesting that both of us are, I was about to say The Rock agnostic, which means something else. But I guess, yeah, we weren't The Rock knowers. There was no real knowledge of The Rock pre this. And now I'm calling him The Rock for some reason, but Dwayne.
it's a blast from the past.
But I don't know. Do you have any like? I feel like going through episodes and specifically talking about timestamps is a bit.
Yeah, it's
It's a bit.
much.
Yeah. So, do you have any major
I'll
thoughts here
yeah,
coming from episode or two?
yeah, I'll just make like a broad, overlook or whatever. Uh, I noted in episode 2, which still has editing in it, which is part of this. You have edited in a clip related to Balthazar, which
Where?
is the scene with the light reflector in it. And
Oh,
I thought that was really interesting. It's at
so wait, is the light reflector visible?
it is visible and present in there. So it's at 11:45 in episode 2 of The Sting of Time is the scene edited in with the light reflector in it, and you have put it over us talking about that scene, and like this, it's not an accusation because none of us saw the light reflector, but I think it is interesting that
I'm quite certain I didn't. I probably, if I scrubbed the timeline, I probably looked at the beginning and the end of the thing I was putting
yeah.
in. I don't think I watched it through.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what I mean. It's still it's interesting
Yeah.
how it snuck in, even considering that it was there from the
Mm.
almost the very beginning.
Yeah. It's been there
It's
taunting us.
yeah, exactly. Other than that, I had let's see. Yes, in episode 13, this becomes it might be a bit of a reminiscing kind of thing now, but I find it very amusing in episode 13 where you have dubious Dwayne details sound
Mm.
playing still in the episode, even though there are no dubious Dwayne details going
Yeah,
on.
but I did all the early edits of The Sting of Time were done in After Effects, all of them. And since I knew I was using the same project file, which I still do. I just do it in Premiere now. I didn't. It's harder to get a full appreciation of what is in a comp, a pre-comp in After Effects, because there's lots of layers, and you don't really have a timeline in the same way. So I think there's lots of episodes where there are either old text in it, or old sound files, or stuff like that for the edited episodes. Because
it's still very funny. To me,
it's right.
It's probably not funny to esteemed content creators.
Yeah, I'll say that I watched back. Let's see. I watched episode 1 and 2, sort of. I watched 23, which is the Please Make It End one. I watched Nosferatu. I watched the Memnon is Like Jesus, the gameplay one. The Forest Watch, and then I did a couple of late ones. So, like, to me, late is like 35 and up, something like that. And I thought for sure, because I do feel like when I watch back episode 1, it sort of annoys me how glib we are about, like, oh my god, it just hit me what we're doing. You know, that kind of thing. Like, shut up.
I must agree because I feel like we were, if I'm gonna be blunt about it, it doesn't have so much to do with oh, wow, what a weird thing we're doing, like that, or like that. I feel like we were playing it up way too much, or like I feel like it's an unnatural presentation of how I actually felt about it or whatever, because it's a bit of a look, mom, I'm on camera, haha, kind of thing for me personally. And in actuality, I was really, rather blasé about the entire thing.
Yeah, I think it's hard to know anything about it as well. Though I do feel like I sort of empathize with myself in terms of I almost would have wished for myself the ability to have had the first watch of the movie just be a watch of the movie, which is impossible. You can't do that, but
that is without a doubt impossible.
Yes, because I do feel like we have never actually been able to watch The Scorpion King just as a movie truly.
No, the closest would be the Solo watch, but even that is just like,
Yeah, but at the Solo watch, wasn't that like 43 or something? You know? So I think at that point it was kind of bonkers.
Exactly.
But I'll say that besides the first episode, I don't really, when I look back, because I've made comments across episodes that amount to, I'll say, a dismissal from the then current version of me as to earlier versions of me talking about the Scorpion King. How it's going to be so cringe to see myself talk about this movie as if I know it, or like the experience of it.
Yeah.
But I don't think so. I don't think that came across. I think I still sort of, it feels sort of reasonable, which I didn't think I would feel. I think I would look at it and just hate the things I say because they're coming from a place of no Scorpion King knowledge.
Mm. Yeah, I guess I feel kind of the same. Uh, I don't really. It's gonna sound weird, but I don't really put much weight in what my past self has to say about about things. Uh, but I don't know. I feel like the things I reflect more over when I watch the old episodes and listen to more myself, but also like when you talk and stuff like that. That I find myself focusing more on remembering things I was thinking at the time, as a person of notoriously good memory in the land. It has been an interesting experience looking back and seeing myself and thinking, when I said this, I was thinking that, and I wouldn't have remembered that unless I looked at
Mm.
myself doing it.
It's interesting to me that to hear you say that, because I when I watch myself, I don't do that. I don't really go back in time and sort of think about. I don't think I could, like, obviously there's stuff I remember from doing the thing, but I couldn't like place. If you take a random episode, I probably couldn't place what day that was, what was
Mm,
going on around it, none of that. But um yeah, I don't know. I don't think about the past that much. I don't really experience stuff like regret. That doesn't happen for me ever. I don't really wish anything would be different. So, and I don't really cherish the things that were either. Like the past is very, uh, yeah. I'm more of a future worrier and a present beer, and
mm.
not so much a reminiscer.
As I feel like you are. This is an accurate description of of you, but I also feel particularly so because we both know that there has been an attempt to become a person who lives in the past,
Yes.
and this attempt had a very short run.
Yes.
This was a life philosophy that was not adopted in the
Yeah.
land.
It
It was
didn't work out.
no, but it was attempted, and for good or ill, it is no longer the case. I was going to say uh, that somewhat in line with the whole thinking back like on stuff I was thinking or so at the time in episode 13. And this is what like this is the kind of things I note down when when I look at this kind of thing at uh, sometime into episode 13, and this is the episode where we're at your old place and we're standing around talking offline, so to say. And there's a
Oh
point
yeah, is
where
this Yoda crushes something with a rock? Is that the episode?
it's not about that, but it's that episode.
Yeah, it is that episode. Yeah.
And at one point in the episode,
It's the
uh,
episode where the framing of the shot makes you look like you're a fucking midget. Sorry, pardon my French. A fantasy dwarf
mm,
compared to me when we are, I think,
we
almost
are
exactly the same height.
of identical height. Yes,
Yes.
we're exactly the same height. But you are correct. It is that episode, and in that episode, we talk at some point we mentioned like we are standing today. We say and like or like you say that, and I say yes, we are standing. That's right. And you kick. You do like a kick with your leg, just like I'm doing a kick because we're standing, and then I'm going to kick. But I distinctly remember, and actually looking at my pathetic excuse for a kick, I distinctly remember that I had done huge leg day workout like the day before this podcast, and like the main thing I remember from the experience of doing that podcast is I cannot move my legs at all. My legs are completely, they are like what's called yips or whatever. It's they are frozen solid, I
Yeah.
guess, whatever.
They're in a
And
cast, as
yeah,
is
yeah,
the word
exactly.
in
Thank
English.
you. Like my legs are in casts, and I try to mimic your kick, and I kind of do this, like, oh, I'll do the same thing, and it just looks like I'm raising like my knee, and then I try to do it with the other leg and like play it off, and the other leg is even more fucked. So it just looks like I am walking in place in
Yeah.
like a 80-year-old man kind of way, and then I
I am a
thinking
huge
about that.
person with athletic kicking ability, and you are a very tiny person with
Yes,
arthritis in your legs.
that is how I felt watching that episode.
Yes. I did
So
not watch that episode. I considered it, but I didn't. Uh, I think I didn't really get that much from watching back the episodes, if I'm being honest. Though
mm,
something I did want to talk about, because it's something I did think about watching it, and it's sort of I guess it is regret adjacent, which is sort of anathema to me. But I did think about if this project were to go longer, what are some things that, because for some time now I think we have decided that we finalized what the things we are doing on the podcast are.
yes.
um let's say from like 45 or up, or even I'd say earlier than that, like
Mm,
late 30s perhaps. It's like we considered, if we added stuff, it's been like a guest or something. But let's say we had 30 to go or something, like or just double it, we're halfway, like we have time. What are some things looking back at the episodes now? Because because what made me think about this was the episode where I can't remember which one it is, I'm sorry, but the episode where I told you, okay, the podcast episode is about 5 things we hate about the movie,
mm.
you know, like and I thought, oh, okay, well, that's, to me, that's sort of interesting now to hear back, like what are the things I hated then. um and I think a lot of the episodes that aren't explicitly doing something or having modified it are sort of vague. They're sort of ephemeral in a way. So what are some stuff that if you had to just make a list of things, what would you do now?
Uh, mm, that's interesting. Uh, one thing is something that like it's more related to the podcast rather than like watching the movie.
Hmm.
I was for a long time, and I'll say this now because I know I'm not gonna do it because it's like the end of the thing. But I was for a long time around the time when I wrapped up Evil Beware. I was considering making like a clip show kind of video like about the podcast itself, like something like I'll take like YouTube comments on the episodes and make it into some sort of collage thing, like, well, why are you doing this, how can you watch this kind of thing, and it would just become the song, yeah? I don't know who made it, but like the song, that song from Lost, the make your own kind of music song,
Yeah.
whatever. And I was gonna make like a 1 second from every episode kind of
Yeah,
music
clip
video
show.
thing, yeah, about how, like, why are you doing this, it's like, I don't know why we're doing this, but sort of thing. And have it be kind of like an uplifting thing that would be at the end, like, hey, here's from every, because I can't make it until it's finished, but I
Hmm.
can't make it after, because it's gonna be stupid, and then that would be like
Well,
a
you
kind of,
can still do it
yeah,
technically.
I
I
can,
feel like
but
you won't.
I won't.
Okay.
That's why I'm saying it. That sort of thing. So if we had more time left, I would probably make that. Like
And that's
or
interesting.
I would start that kind of thing now, and
Earlier.
yeah, exactly. I would start that earlier. Is
Yeah.
rather what it would be, because I think making the evil beware and it taking so long to do, but also. And you might not believe this, but having made it, even though it's like this thing that 3.5 people in the world have seen in its entirety. It was something that it felt very fulfilling. I had a lot of fun doing it, and it's fun to look at and so on. So I would have made more things like that
Mm.
with earlier, like started those kinds instead of getting ideas about them now. It's
All
sort
right.
of the thing.
I think for me, and we'll see, maybe we can do this for something else in the future. Who knows?
Mm,
I think I would have liked seeing the movie with a bunch of people.
mm.
Like
Yeah, like
to
in a big group or something.
yeah, and like the perfect thing would of course have been to seen it at a cinema.
Yes,
And it's
sadly.
like it's not something well, you have an idea here where it is you and me
Mm,
watching it at a cinema, just us, which is funny. I'll say that is
yes.
funny. But it's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like watching it at a cinema for real. And we
Yeah,
haven't, you know.
I understand what you mean.
So I think that would have been fun. I think in the future I would like to do something like that. I think a lot of that is predicated upon something being very successful or popular, though,
Mm,
which sort of doesn't work out.
no,
Considering as well that we are in Sweden and we're making a podcast, even if we were popular, we're not making a podcast for Swedish people,
no, absolutely not.
which sort of makes it hard. But I'll also say that something I want to do in the future is I really, and I know this is hard, it's probably never going to happen, but I want to have your mother on
Yes.
to talk.
we we did officially reach out to my mother, who may or may not be watching these podcasts, who she is aware of their existence. Uh, Sadly, she politely declined to be a guest on the show, and I have respected that.
Yes.
But now
I haven't. I have
yeah,
not
yes,
respected it.
now she can officially hear that that you are very disappointed with
Yes. I'm
this
super disappointed.
outcome. So, uh, mom, take this into account. You have disappointed Lilo immensely,
Yes.
and if you're ever in Sweden ever again, please consider being a
Well, she
guest.
doesn't have to be in Sweden.
Uh, if you're ever
If you
mentally
exist
in
again,
Sweden, if, or exist in some manner on this planet, please consider what you have just heard and reflect upon
yes.
such matters.
Do you have any other big sweeping thought considering old episodes of The Sting of
Yes,
Time?
I have one more that I feel I have to bring up, and or rather, it's not a sweeping thought about the entire thing. This is I'll just take this one quickly because I watched episode 24 of the podcast, and this is the episode in which I am clearly severely depressed for the entire episode
Mm.
and not in a good mood, really down. And it is also the episode where 52 seconds into this episode, I say that I don't like the Scorpion King, and then you spend 11 minutes talking about how you fished a bunch of AirPods out of a ditch and had a religious experience,
Yeah.
or something like
Is
that.
that 24? I thought it was 23.
Oh, it's 24, according to my
Yeah,
scroll, and
yeah,
my
yeah.
scroll would never lie. And after you have talked nonstop for 11 minutes about this experience, I say nothing the entire time. Then I just say, so yeah, I don't like the Scorpion King again, and I feel like this is the funniest thing that has happened on the podcast in my mind. Feel like this is the highlight, like
Yeah.
the kind of thing that I will remember about this podcast 15 years from now. It would be that part.
I'll say that regarding it, because I watched that episode back as well. And that episode is one I do quite vividly remember. Because the experience I had, that actually happened. That happened. But you had showed up to watch the movie. I don't know what it was, like maybe the fourth or something time. Yeah, we watched it offline at my place, and you were a wreck, and you were yes, we mentioned it before. You were in the fetal position watching the movie.
Yes.
Which isn't a common occurrence.
No, very uncharacteristic.
Yes. But so I already knew. No, wait. This wasn't offline.
No, the one I'm talking about was an online watch.
It was an online.
I thought you were talking about
something
else.
No. I'm conflating these, but yes. Whatever. For other reasons, presumably just the quality of the conversation yes. during the watch, it was quite apparent to me that you weren't having a good time, but I also wasn't having a good time. And the entire point of the 11-minute rant, or not rant, I'll just call it a story. The 11-minute story about the AirPods, which is, I'll say, mostly true in terms of how I felt about it. I probably exaggerated it a little bit. The entire point was to contrast it with how shit I was feeling about the Scorpion King. So I'll pull back the curtain a little bit and say that it wasn't entirely spontaneous. I knew I wanted to talk about that thing and how great that felt and how bad the Scorpion King felt.
It was a deliberate, almost mentally pre-rehearsed occurrence.
Yes. Something like that. Well, no, sort of.
I believe this kind of thing is fine in the realms of podcasting.
Yes. I don't think it's a crime. But it probably would have been funnier. Even funnier, I'll say, if I hadn't read the room and I was just going on about this and you were dying. And
yes.
Yeah, that would have been funnier.
That would be really funny.
But sadly, it wasn't as funny as that.
Let me ask you if you have any sweeping thoughts about the project as a whole at this point.
I don't really have that. I think I gave out my thoughts. I'll say that I do find the first intro to the podcast to just be way worse. But the whole idea of it was that it was supposed to be cringe and then sort of funny because it's sort of Godsmack adjacent. But I don't think that plays. It just looks like we think it's a cool intro.
Yeah.
Which I guess is a bit funny as well, but
yeah, but I think even for this, it's a bit too, quantum meta.
Yeah.
Funny.
But I think I sort of identify with the current Sting intro. I quite like the tune.
It's a bit Pavlovian.
Yes.
To me. It makes me feel like it makes me think, why am I hearing this tune? Because I can only hear the tune by actually watching the episode. So and I usually, I click on episodes, like when they're released, I'll click on them just to particularly to see what minuscule editing you do in the intro.
Yeah.
But also sometimes I click on them just to like what am I looking at? Oh, right, like to see, is there any comment? Has anyone written a comment, or like that sort of like sort of thing. And since that's the only thing I really do, Or sometimes I like to look at how does it end? I said no, and then it's cut to the ending or whatever. So if I click on an episode, it's always going to be at the very beginning or at the very end, on the playback thing. So usually when I click on them, it will just be the intro, playing. So that's what I associate the tune with, like me, just the act of
Gotcha.
checking it. So that's what I mean. It's a bit Pavlovian. It makes me feel kind of, what am I doing? And then I close
Yeah,
it.
this episode is sort of going on, and I think it's always hard to tell, I think, from the outside how an episode is going. But I'm gonna say that this one is possibly right now qualifying as insanely unfunny and not interesting whatsoever.
Yes. I feel like this has been a pretty terrible.
Yes, a pretty fucking horrible episode.
Yeah.
Which maybe that's good. Maybe it's good to sort of dip and then we'll crest it. Who knows? But before we go, let's do a blast from the past here. Give me your emotional state, Oscar.
My emotional state is hunger an emotion?
No.
Okay, I'm extremely
I think
hungry.
that's a bodily function. I think you've
haven't-
asked this exact fucking question before.
I haven't eaten anything today, and I just want the podcast to end so I can go make some food.
Okay, so you're under duress.
Yes, somewhat under duress. I'm also, how should I put it?
You can make the podcast end quicker.
Yes, but I have to answer the question. I am. How do you say this in English? I am somewhat is looking forward to an emotion.
What do you mean?
I don't know.
You're anticipating something. But
okay, here's how it is. My emotional state is I'm hungry, and after this podcast is over, I will make some food, and then I'm gonna play Elden Ring, and I'm looking forward to that. That's gonna be fun. Unlike this, that is my emotional state.
I don't think that's an emotional state, but we'll take it. My emotional state is tepid.
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 Tepid sounds like the name of like some mummy